Hello again, everybody. Lance Smith here, and welcome to episode 242 of the Bible Difficulties and Answers podcast. Here's the question we're tackling today. Have you ever stared at your Bible and thought, wait, does God actually command people to steal sometimes? Because on one hand, you've got Jesus in Matthew 19:18 saying, you must not steal. But then you turn back a few pages, and you've got Rachel taking her father's household idols, and the Israelites walking out of Egypt loaded down with silver, gold, and clothing. So what do you do with that? Is the Bible contradicting itself, or are we missing something? Stick with me, because today we're going to walk through this carefully, using the New Living Translation where possible, and leaning on solid scholarship along the way. By the end of this episode, this is going to make a whole lot more sense. Let's start with the foundation. According to the Bible's consistent moral teaching, stealing is always wrong. No loopholes, no fine print. In Matthew 19:18, Jesus says, you must not murder, you must not commit adultery, you must not steal, you must not testify falsely. He's quoting Exodus 20:15. You must not steal. And that command shows up everywhere. Deuteronomy 5:19, Leviticus 19:11, where it says, do not steal. Ephesians 4:28, if you are a thief, quit stealing. And it keeps going. Mark 10:19, Luke 18:20, Romans 2:21, 1 Thessalonians 4:6. The Bible never wavers on this, not once. As Vivian Bricker writes in her article, What Does the Bible Say About Stealing? On Christianity.com with this: the Bible never presents stealing in a positive light. Stealing is always wrong. Okay, that's the baseline. Now, here's where the skeptic steps in. The Skeptic's Annotated Bible, in its entry, Is It Always Wrong to Steal?, lines up a series of passages and argues that sometimes the Bible actually permits stealing. And at first glance, fair question. But here's something important to notice. All of their examples come from the Old Testament, even though the command comes from Jesus in the New. So let's walk through them. We'll begin with Rachel and the household idols. Genesis 31:19 says, Rachel stole her father's household idols. Now, pause right there. The Bible records it, but it never approves it. That's a huge distinction. It's descriptive, not prescriptive. The same way the Bible records David's sin without endorsing it. It records Rachel's actions as part of a messy family situation. Emmanuel Tav, in his article on thetorah.com titled Laban Searches for His Stolen Idols, Genesis 31:33, and Aaron Darby in Rachel's Teraphim, a critique of the Northern Kingdom, and that's also from thetorah.com, explained that these teraphim likely had inheritance or authority significance. The blog post, Why Steal the Household Goods from Entrusted to the Dirt, adds helpful cultural background to what Rachel may have been thinking, either stopping Laban from using the idols to divine their escape route or protecting her inheritance rights. And GotQuestions.org, in their article, Why Do People Keep Family Idols in the Bible?, explains that these were often viewed as protective talismans, a lingering pagan practice. So whatever Rachel's motive was, financial value, superstition, or something else, the text presents it as part of the problem, not something to imitate. It's theft, and it's tied to idolatry, which, if anything, makes it worse, not better. Now, let's look at the Israelites and the Egyptians. And this is the one that usually gets people. Exodus 3:22, they ask for silver and gold. Exodus 12:35-36, they leave with it. And yeah, on a quick read, it can sound like borrow and don't return. But hang on, that's not what the text actually says. Peter Slama, in his study, Thus They Despoiled the Egyptians, Exodus 12:36 and parallels, on the scandal of asking silver and gold from innocent neighbors, points out that the text emphasizes two repeated ideas. The Israelites asked, and the Egyptians gave, willingly. Why? Because after the 10 plagues, Egypt was essentially saying, please, just go. God had already promised this back in Genesis 15:14. So this isn't theft, this is restitution. Or to put it in everyday terms, this isn't robbery, it's back pay. Centuries of unpaid labor finally settled. And this isn't just a modern interpretation. Ancient voices like Philo of Alexandria argued that they were receiving long overdue wages. Josephus said the Egyptians gave willingly, some out of goodwill, others just to speed them on their way. Even early Jewish tradition says they were urged to take more. Now, listen to how Eric Lyons puts it. He writes in his article, Israelite Plundering and a Missing Donkey, from Apologetics Press, he writes with this: the Israelites merely requested various articles, which were then granted by the Egyptians. And then he adds, who but a biased skeptic would call this stealing? Wayne Jackson, in his article Exodus 3:22, The Israelites Leave Egypt, from Christian Courier, explains that the word borrow in older translations is misleading. The Hebrew means simply ask. No deception, no IOU, no return policy. And GotQuestions.org, in their article, What is the Meaning of Spoiled the Egyptians in Exodus 12:36, makes the same point. This was not sneaky theft, but a sovereign act of justice and compensation. And when you zoom out even further, you get Moshe Bar Nev in Regulating Theft, Lessons from Biblical Law, shows that biblical theft always involves wrongful taking for personal gain. That's not what's happening here. This is God acting as judge. Now, the key distinction, and this is where everything clicks, the Bible distinguishes between theft, taking what isn't yours for personal gain, and divine justice, God settling accounts in history. Those are not the same thing. Confusing them would be like saying winning a lawsuit is the same thing as robbery. No, one is justice, the other is a crime. That's the difference. Even in hard situations, the rule doesn't change. Proverbs says a starving thief still has to repay. In the New Testament, it doesn't say steal if you're desperate. It says work and give. One final thought. When someone asks, is stealing wrong? They're assuming a moral standard exists. But if everything is just matter and motion, just materialism, nothing is truly right or wrong. The question itself points back to a moral lawgiver, and the Bible tells you who that is. So let's bring this home. When Jesus says, you must not steal, he means it. Completely, consistently, universally. And nothing in the Old Testament counsels that. Those passages don't create loopholes, they reveal God's justice. So what's the answer? Is it always wrong to steal? Yes. And the so-called exceptions? They're not exceptions. They're context. If this episode helped you think a little clearer or gave you confidence the next time someone brings up a Bible contradiction, I'd appreciate you sharing it. You can support the show at buymeacoffee.com/Lance Smith. Always appreciated, never expected. Every episode lives at BibleDifficultiesAndAnswers.podbean.com, and you can reach me at BibleDifficultiesAndAnswers@gmail.com or on Facebook. I read every message. This is Lance Smith reminding you, don't be afraid of the hard passages. That's usually where the best answers are hiding and where your faith gets stronger. Wishing you good health, good study, and God's richest blessings. We'll see you next time. So long, everybody.